Welcome to Living With. This is your host, Katrina Smith, and on today's show, Miss Ann Sanchez, who is living with spinal cord injury. Hi, Miss Ann. And welcome to Living With. I'm your host, Katrina Smith, and thank you for being on the show. I have some questions to ask you if you don't mind answering them for me, please.
Sure.
Okay. What is your disability?
I have spinal cord injury.
Okay. How does your spinal cord injury affect you growing up?
How did it affect me growing up?
Yes.
You have to give me a minute to think about that. But I guess it really didn't affect me growing up because I was raised in a home where I wasn't treated any differently than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I had 15 cousins surrounding me and my brother. So there was about 16 of us all together.
Okay.
And we were all, my grandparents, that was their biggest insistence was that they treat me as they would, anybody else. And so there was never, any difference made between us. So there really wasn't any difference.
Okay. So how did you cope with it, and what is your motivation?
How do I cope with it? I cope with it because my grandma really instilled in me, she would always tell me, you have 2 arms and a brain, so you can't walk, so what's the big deal? And, having that put into my head,
Mm-hmm.
I just always learned that there really isn't a big deal between not walking and somebody that, is mobile, that is able to walk. My biggest motivation right now is my daughter, because, I have to work in order to care for her, and so that's what I do. I go out and I try to find jobs, and right now I work as a substitute teacher, and we're out for the summertime, so that's my biggest motivation right there, because I don't want her to think that, just because I'm disabled, I get things handed down to me, that, I have to work just as hard as everybody else does.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's where my biggest motivation comes right now.
Okay. How has the treatment for your disability changed from when you were younger with all the advanced technology?
Oh gosh, that's a loaded question, because when I was little, my accident happened when I was in 1981, and they didn't have wheelchairs for, little kids whenever my accident happened. And so the ones that they did have was for small adults, and the doctors would always tell my grandma, she's too small for that wheelchair. There's no way she's going to be able to use it. And finally, my grandma, when I was 4 years old, she just went out and got one herself, and she put me inside of it, and I had to put my hands underneath the armrest in order to roll the wheels, but, it worked. Mm-hmm. And probably that was, the greatest feeling, was being able to go places in my chair. And so, also at the time between whenever I was growing up between now, they didn't really know a whole lot about spinal cord injury, and so I was being treated for spina bifida, which I don't have. I have spinal cord injury because I was in a car accident, and so, but only because they didn't know a whole lot about spinal cord injury, and I guess they kind of correlated the two and thinking that they were the same condition, and they're not. But I mean, technology. Now I see all these little tiny wheelchairs for all these little kids, and I think that's just so amazing how they can do that now.
Mhm. Yeah. You have a daughter with disabilities. What is her disability?
I have a daughter?
Yes.
Oh, no, I have a daughter. She does not have a disability. She's 100% fine.
Okay.
For now.
All right.
Yes.
And what's...
Just me.
Huh?
Just me.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, what difficulties have you had taking care of your daughter?
You know, I have to actually say it's been a challenge that I have really looked headed on, and I've overcome this challenge. She's going to be 11 soon, so I'm really proud of how she is, right now. When she was little, it was definitely a challenge. Carrying her when she was, a baby, and rolling the wheelchair at the same time, that was really difficult. And then, when she got to her toddler years, she got to that age where, toddlers, they want to go run around, and so she got to that age, but that she wanted to do that, and I just had to sit her down and, just kind of talk to her and tell her, you can't really do that because I can't exactly go running after you. That was really hard for her, probably really hard for her to learn to, that she couldn't run off because that's just how toddlers are. And then when she was a baby, I got a baby carrier that, the ones that you like strap to your back. I got one of those, and that was one of the ways I was able to carry her, but not until after she learned how to pick her, hold her head up and things like that, sit up on her own. That was one of the ways I was able to carry her on my lap when she was an infant, and she was completely strapped in, so I always made sure she was completely safe, and then I would be able to push the wheelchair also. And then now she's getting old enough, and she's I don't have to really maintain her as much, but I don't know. It definitely, like when she was little, it was a challenge, but now it's not so much anymore because she's older, and so I don't need to carry her. But it does. I think the challenge presents itself like, let's say at Halloween time, whenever we go trick or treating. Not all of the curbs in our city are accessible, and so me taking her, back and forth to different houses to go trick or treating, that is definitely something that I can't do. And plus, people's houses have stairs, and so my main concern was, what if I took her to a house that has stairs and she knocks on the door and the people take her inside? I'm not gonna be able to go get her. That's like my biggest fear right there. But my husband is very great about doing the things with her that I can't do. So I can't take her trick or treating, or so he does that for me. Or I can't take her swimming because I can get in the pool and I can swim, but if she starts to drown, there's no way that I can go and save her. So I don't take her swimming. I guess what I'm trying to say is the things that I'm not able to do with her, my husband does do with her. So it kind of evens out in her life. She's not lacking in anything because if I'm not able to do it, then my husband does it with her. And so I think, balancing all of that out and giving her the normal childhood that any child should have, swimming, trick-or-treating, and all that. I think it balances out evenly, and I think, in the end, she's going to be a well-balanced person.
Okay. How has your disability affected your way of seeing other people living with different disabilities?
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
How has your disability affected your way of seeing other people living with different disabilities?
How has my disability
affected your way of seeing other people living with disabilities? Different disabilities.
Seeing other people with disabilities? You know, that's a good question because when I was little, I would always hear the doctors tell my grandparents, you know, well, you're so lucky that this happened, you know, the accident happened to Rebecca when she was little because she didn't know what she lost. And as far as, you know, walking, and I never really understood that statement. And then a couple of years ago, I took a job at an independent living center, working with people with disabilities, and there were some people there, you know, that all their life they had lived this, I don't like to use the word normal, but they had lived this, what word am I looking for here? Because I don't like the word normal. They lived a life. They were able to do things. They were married, they had a job, they had kids, they had a house, you know, they had everything going for them. And then all of a sudden, they would get in a car accident and they would get paralyzed, and it would seem like they lost everything. I mean, you know, a lot of spouses can't handle, you know, a person being disabled, so they would leave them, and, you know, they would lose their house. The kids, kids don't understand it, you know. My daughter probably understands it because she was born, you know, with this. This is her only life she's ever known. But, so I think, you know, I guess, you know, what I'm trying to say is that seeing this, you know, up front, I finally understand what the doctors meant by that I was lucky that it happened, you know, when I was little, because, I mean, I don't see anybody else differently than I view myself, and I know I love advocating for people. That's like my main passion in life, but I finally understand, you know, what they meant by what they said, and I don't know if I would be happy if it would have happened to me later on in life, but after seeing all, you know, not everybody, but a lot of people, you know, lose everything once they had gained everything, I think that was a really hard thing to see for me in my life. But then, working at the Independent Living Center, helping these people realize, you know, that they can live independently with just a few resources, that was a very big accomplishment for me, because it was, you know, you seeing, like, I had this one lady, for instance, she never went out of her house. She was always in her house. Her parents did all of her grocery shopping. The only time she went out of her house was to go to the doct's. And that was the only time she left her house. She had been in a truck accident. And, you know, after meeting her, a couple of weeks after meeting her, she called me and she was so excited because she said, you know what I did today? And I said, what did you do? And she said, oh, I got into my wheelchair and I put my little dog on my lap and I just went to the little convenience store and I got myself a soda. And, you know, she was just so happy because she realized she was able to do more than what she thought she was able to do. So I think viewing people, other people with disabilities, I view them just like myself. And if I could help any of them become, you know, more independent, just like my life has been, you know, that's my main purpose, I think, in life, is to help others realize, you know, probably realized the thing that my grandma taught me, which was, like I said earlier, you have 2 arms and a brain, so you're paralyzed. Big deal. It's not a big deal. Just a matter of making people see and realize that they are able to do so much more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is the most common misconception, in your opinion, of those with disabilities?
What is the what?
What is the most common misconception, in your opinion, of those with disabilities?
I think the most common misconception would be, I don't think it's among the people with disabilities. I think it's mostly among the people employers, because employer, even though a person with a disability, they could have all the credentials, they could be well suited for the job. A lot of people are still out there, and they're still basing the whole, I guess, for instance, with me, they look at my wheelchair first before they even look at my credentials. Mm-hmm. So even though there shouldn't be discrimination in the world, there still is discrimination to a point. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, and I guess maybe it's not just employers. It's everybody. People, they want to look at the person's disability rather than looking at the person themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a misconception among a lot of people, because people with disabilities, they have, I guess, they have the same credentials, and they have the same thoughts and feelings and emotions that everybody else has, and people really aren't giving them that second chance. They're just looking at their disability and automatically coming up with a judgment, and that's not really fair. So I think that's the most common misconception that I can see so far.
Okay. How would you motivate other people to come out and talk about their disabilities?
How would I motivate other people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a big question. I guess, just finding that common ground with them first, and then, finding that common ground, and then, work, and then just letting them know, that they're people just like we are, and there is a reason, that we are in a disability, this kind of, there's a reason we're in this place, that's what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. And so I think, it's all about teaching them to find the reason that they are here, and going with that, and telling them, you are special everybody's special in their own way, but people with disabilities are even more, and they gotta have a voice just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that's one way.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to tell our viewers about spinal cord injury, and how they can help bring more awareness to spinal cord injuries?
I don't know, is there any other questions that you have regarding specifically about the spinal cord injury, or? I don't really have any.
No.
I know, like I said, just because I have spinal cord injury, I'm very happy with everything that I've done with my daughter, with going back to school, getting my degree, with working, with, being married, and, everything that I've done. It's because of the way that my family was, especially my grandma. She was my very big, my number one fan. And the rest of my family, my brother, all of my cousins, I don't think, if it wasn't for them, I don't think that I would be who I am and have accomplished what I have accomplished if it wasn't for them. So I'm very grateful that I do have them. But, just because you have a spinal cord injury or any other injury, don't let it limit yourself, because you can do so much more out there. There's nothing you can't do. I mean, that's what I'm telling my daughter all the time. You gotta put yourself out there, no matter what it is that you have. You just gotta put yourself out there and let people know you're here and you can do that.
Okay. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Miss Ann, for sharing your story.
Thank you.
You're welcome. For sharing your story on living with all of us. I wish you and your family all the best, and take care.
You too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. Why don't you become a spoken warrior on your disabilities here on Living With? We would love to hear your story.